Good morning. Welcome to the PME 360 Powering Business Growth Show, where each week we talk about the issues and offer advice on how to power growth for your local business. I'm your host, Ron Rody Jr. With me today, we have Kurt Milligan, PME 360 Digital Marketing Specialist. Kurt, good morning. How are you?
Well, thank you.
And of course, with me as always, my main man, the man with the plan, the marketing man, our CEO, Mr. Ryan Paul Adams. Ryan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ron. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you as well. Excited to have with us this morning Tove Rasmussen. Tove Rasmussen has a particular passion for and strength in growing the revenues and profits of small companies and medium-sized businesses. She is bringing this experience to mentor and consult with businesses and help them grow both revenue and profits. Ms. Rasmussen has strong expertise in all facets of business, including leading, marketing, sales, regulatory, research and development, and technical manufacturing operations. She also holds a certified management accountant designation. Within each organization, over her 20 years of business experience, Ms. Rasmussen has taken special pride in effectively mentoring and developing both colleagues and staff. Tove has a BA Political Science major and African Studies minor from the University of Toronto and holds an MBA from the Richard Ivey School of Business. She also has completed an intensive coaching program grounded in effective listening, as well as the Coactive Coaching Fundamentals from the Coaches Training Institute in Washington, D.C. Tove lives near the coast of northern England, enjoying hiking in the summer, skiing in the winter, and the ocean all year round. Warm welcome and good morning to Tove Rasmussen. Tove, how are you?
Good morning, Ron, and thanks for the wonderful introduction.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. I think you've had a lot of snow to ski this winter.
Yes, there was some good snow to ski up here. Yeah, some fabulous days. Wow. But now we're headed into spring, so we get the canoeing and hiking, so it's always good.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Yeah.
So let's see, we can just take a look here at what we're going to be covering today. Really help your sales grow significantly. That's the key. And you'll see on the slide the 5 steps that we've got, the key things that a company needs to do really well in order to gain significant sales growth. Although I've chosen this order for the 5 steps, if you're looking for a competitive advantage and you haven't figured that out yet, you may want to start with the second item, which is figuring out your target market before you get to the competitive advantage, because you want to understand, what the key needs are, what the unmet needs are in order to figure that out. So the order of the steps is really based on what the company needs to accomplish. Another thing to pay attention to as well is that all these steps are related. So insights into the competitive advantage can then can shift the direction for your best target market, which then will probably affect where you want to promote. So it's not as simple as 1, 2, 3, but I have tried to simplify it and pare it down and get to the key points for you today. So competitive advantage, what separates you from the competition? That's critical to know because that's going to drive your increase in sales. Companies need competitive advantage to drive growth. So what is it? It's where you're better than your competitors, and it has to be something that customers care about in order to actually drive the sales. So, do you know what your competitive advantage is? I've got some examples for you, and one example in particular that kind of highlights what this is. It's the example of an organic spirit company. A woman named Allison Evano out of California had experience in the restaurant market there, and she knew that serious chefs were moving towards flavors from the garden combined in unexpected ways. And we've seen this in restaurants. And she thought you could translate this into alcohol and into vodka, and that would really open up territory for great cocktails. So she started up Square One Organic Vodka, and it debuted in 2006 and used very high-quality ingredients and unique processes. So people actually sip vodka. It actually tastes good.
Huh.
It's not just something where you put in a flavor and then it tastes good. It tastes good on its own. And Square One reached $1 million in sales in 2011 with this advantage. So how does this apply to you? How do you know you actually have the advantage over competitors? Well, a lot of us rely on internal company knowledge, but it can be very faulty. There's a natural bias for a company to think it's better than it is. Say, for example, in customer service. You know, we all think we're great, but is this true? It could be true. Actually, you want to back this internal view up with objective outside information.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this would be information, can be from customer service, it can be from sales, it can be from sales calls. But you also want to balance this with third-party market research. Third-party market research is unbiased. When the company, people from the company call customers or call prospects and talk to them, the responses can be biased. People try to be polite. It may not seem like it, no. People do try to be polite. And this will skew the results. And these results will be further skewed if there's a prize and an incentive for people to respond. So it's very important to have the sales call information, but it's also important to balance that with third-party objective information as well.
So I normally put a little something in my vodka, so that's interesting to hear that sipping vodka.
Yeah. Have you ever tried to sip it?
I probably should.
Well, you know, if it's organic vodka, if it's Square One organic vodka, and I think there's a few out there now, then it actually has flavor on its own, apparently. But vodka's not really my drink. So how do you know this advantage that you have, such as organic vodka, matters to your target market? Well, ask them. And don't just accept the first quick response. I mean, people will say cost. People will say speed. They want the service faster. They want a lower cost. But if they say cost, take a look at what percentage of their cost your product is. You know, how important is it to them? And if it is, are there ways to reduce their overall cost, say telecommunications cost, without having to lower your price? Like, look at the whole picture, not just your little piece of the pie. Perhaps there's a way to reduce that overall cost. Or perhaps they say they need a faster response, but why do they? Is this going to save them labor? Is this going to allow them to process more of their goods and sell more goods? And how is that faster response going to fit in their workflow? If you increase the speed from 2 hours to 1 hour, is that really going to make a difference to them? Are they going to pick it up on email faster? You know, so really take a look at what's going to have an impact. And if you do deliver cost savings or a sales increase, then that's the value to the customers that you deliver, and that factors into the price that they're willing to pay. So how much do these things matter to your target market? How much does your target market care whether the vodka has flavor or not? Well, you can find out the top 3 items from their customers when they're purchasing your product or service. Again, you can do a survey, you can talk to them, pull all that information together, because it's good to have it from different sources. And then try to figure out, is the first issue, let's say it's service, is that way ahead from the second issue, say perhaps that's a consistent quality, or are the first 2 really close together? What's the relationship to them, between them, and why is one so much more important than the other? Because this will help you to understand where to focus on an unmet need, and really gain an important competitive advantage in your marketplace. So here I've got a tool that you can use to be able to rank yourself and your competitors based on the requirements of your particular target market segment. And I've used the vodka example here. Put as the first requirement, this is a fictitious example, organic. The second requirement is flavor, and the third is the ability to sell direct to customers as opposed to through distributors. So in this example, I've assumed that square one is the first one in the market, and the others are catching up. So you see here that square one's doing really well on all the segment requirements. They've got a competitor, a couple that are good on the organic end of things, not so good on the flavor, haven't really got that direct-to-customer piece figured out. So that's an excellent scenario. That's where a company really has competitive advantage and can really gain share in their market. However, there's another scenario, too, where perhaps competitors have caught up, and perhaps they're as good on most of these parameters. So then it's a matter of figuring out other unmet customer needs on which to excel, or to figure out how to excel even further on these particular elements. So having a true representation of where you are versus your competitors on the key things that your target market wants really helps you to drive a strategy that will be effective.
So Tove, this is very similar to a SWOT analysis and really understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your competition, is it not?
Yes, it is. A SWOT analysis, yeah, you look at the strengths and weaknesses of yourselves, your competitors, and this is tying it all to what is important to your target market. So, I mean, if you're really good at something that your customers don't care about, it's not really going to drive growth. So it's really important to understand and look at what's important to the target market and understand that in a lot of detail.
Yes.
Yeah, so now you've figured out the competitive advantage, then we look at the target market itself. And these are your company's best prospects. This is where you're going to be getting your business from. So I often hear business owners say that their market is everyone. However, there are a number of reasons to avoid this approach. First of all, trying to appeal to everyone usually waters the message down so much it becomes meaningless. Second, the business will try to please everyone, use a lot of resources, and likely not please any of them particularly well, because it's very difficult to try to do everything well. And third, trying to promote to everyone makes it very expensive. It's so much cheaper to focus on a smaller market niche, gain a foothold there, and then expand. And then finally, usually a company has specific expertise and advantages in a particular area. Leverage those first and then build on that. It's a lot cheaper in terms of a strategy. So the more focused the business is, the more effective it is.
Yeah, we've seen this, day in and day out. I think you bring up a great point there, is really understand your niche and really understand how to sell to them, master that, and then move on to the next. That's a great point.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. Not everybody has the budget of Coca-Cola, But so then you take a look at who you sell to. That's the first thing. And one way to break it down is to say, am I selling to consumers, or like Coca-Cola does, or am I selling to businesses? And you can then also, like I've done here, you can break it down into industry segments, different industries, different professions, different demographics, age, gender, and so on. So I've put some examples of broad potential markets here with a particular affinity for that cake there. That's representing the bakers, I think. So then when you look at your broader market, say, for example, we could say contractors. Certain ones are more likely to want your services than others. So in this case, we can make your business, say, online local marketing services. So contractors who want more sales are open to online marketing, and who will pay for online marketing would be the target market. So in this case, if you look at the slide here, in terms of the customer need, you're looking for customers that have a need for more sales. You're looking for customers that have the characteristics of openness to online marketing and also have the characteristic of either break even or profit, or at least, have the cash to pay for the online marketing services. Another example here is in the telecommunications market. So you can say, ask somebody who runs a telecommunications company, who's your market? And the first answer could be everybody that uses a phone. But everybody that uses a phone, that could just be somebody that has one or two lines. And if this company is managing the telecommunications, it could be hard to make money when they're managing such a small telephone system.
Sure.
Yeah. So the second answer that the person would come up with after thinking about it a little bit could be, well, really they need to have 50 lines or more for it to be profitable for us. So there you're looking at product usage. How much does the customer use your product, which, is often an important factor in the market segments. Then after they think about it a little bit more, they think, well, some customers have 50 lines, and they're quite happy to put together a telecommunications department to manage those 50 lines and so on. But other customers want to outsource non-core functions like telecommunications, and that's really the target segment. The ones that have both 50 lines and the ones that are open to outsourcing. Because some companies like to control everything and make sure it's exactly how their company wants to run it. Other companies want to focus on what they're really good at and outsource the rest of it. So, that's really customer needs. It's actually based more on strategy.
And I think on being able to reveal that third answer on the customer end, or in your prospecting and within sales, for example, that's really key. So if you're talking to a company that, okay, well they use a phone, they have 50 lines or more, but if they're not willing to outsource, then you really need to do your homework, I guess is what I'm trying to say, prior to going after that target. So that third answer is very important.
Yeah, it is, and then then you get into the murky area of the ones that aren't focused on outsourcing now, but perhaps they would be open to it in the future. But the easier ones are the ones that have outsourcing as part of their strategy. Yeah, and that can be researched, or it can be covered in one of the initial conversations.
Yeah.
Depending on the information that is out there, because it could be easier to figure out if they have 50 lines. But often on a company website or news articles about the company, they'll talk about things like that often.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. So you figured out a target market segment, and you want to know, is this a good segment? Well, just as it's possible to try to target everyone and have too big of a market, it's also possible to come up with a target segment that's so small in revenue potential that it's just not going to be enough for the company. So it's really important to understand the target market, the total market, annual market revenue from that, the annual market dollars in that segment. And don't assume that the company is going to get 100% of those sales. I mean, some companies won't buy. They'll, do other things. And then there's usually competitors. I mean, it's a fact of life, so, factor that in as well.
Sure.
So take a look at the market size and
sometimes just a sliver of the market size, though, is all you really need.
Yeah,
right?
if it's a big enough market, then you don't need that much. But yeah, but take a look at the market size and do that extra step and make sure that there's enough in there for you and a few others probably. So yeah, but if you got a good market, then then you don't need much.
That's right.
The other thing, too, is when you're looking at market segments, you want to make sure that they're different from each other, so that A is different from an important way from, say, the other two segments. So, for example, going back to the vodka, that they're organic, that's one segment. Then there's the segment that, just goes with mixes, So just make sure that they're distinct. And then finally, of course, and this is something that we're going to cover later on, but you want to make sure that you can reach the target market. you're in the Northeast U.S. and your target market's going to be in, I don't know, I'm thinking Timbuktu. I mean, how do you get there? So you want to make sure, or even if it's located there, but you've got no way to actually meet people in that particular market segment, you're going to want to figure that out, and we cover that later. But make sure, too, that you have access to that market as well. So now you've got your target market. There's certain requirements that market has. How well do you meet them? Do you have the right products, the image, the technical skills, the capacity? Also, is your company known in that segment? And how large is your market share in that segment? So it's really important to be close to the market, to understand what those market needs, and to be able to adapt to changes in the segment. Market, especially now, target markets, they're changing all the time. The market needs, we've got all the electronic changes, you've got all the global changes, the economic changes, and so on. And it's important to, look ahead and think about, what are these changes that are happening? Is the company ready? Does the company have the right skills in place to be able to address those things? Or will they have will you have the right skills in place to be able to address those things when they occur? And that also fits with the company growing. Okay, so the company's, bringing in a certain amount of revenue now. You want to grow it. So what are you going to need in place with that? And are you putting the pieces in place for that? Have you thought about how to grow? Is it through contractors, through employees? Where are you going to find the employees? What skills do you need? It's this is where the whole strategic planning really comes into place, looking 5 years out, figuring out what you'll need. And yeah, it's not going to be a crystal ball. You're not going to know exactly what's going on in 5 years, but it helps you to be ready for what's going on and to make sure that you're moving in the right direction to have things in place that are needed for growth. So one final note on target markets. Take time to better understand your competitive advantage in the market and confirm the market needs with the prospect calls and the market research. And the two, like I say, are kind of iterative. So if you find out more in the target market, the needs for that market, and that modifies the insights that what the competitive advantage should be, then the two will go back and forth. You'll gain insights into the target market, which will gain insights into the competitive advantage, and it's not a straight line process, is what I'm saying. It's iterative.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
be careful with that. Not quite like baking a cake.
Yeah.
Great.
So then we move on to a message. You know where your company excels now. You know who your target market is. Now you've got to create a compelling message for your prospects. So here there's been a lot of great work done. So I thought I would leverage some of that work by Epler and Bishop. So I'm going to outline that information. And I've also got some investor and customer pitch templates available if you're interested. So just email me, let me know, and I can get that along to you. So they use a method called CLEAR, which is what we're trying to be here. And it starts off with context. So set the stage. The people that you're talking to have not been thinking about this business for months and months. It's not on their mind every day. You need to get their attention, and you need to get them thinking about your business. And then, of course, make sure the pitch has a logical structure. A jumbled mass of thoughts is going to lose your audience. It will be difficult to understand. What you want is a clear, crisp presentation of your business, why it's better than the competition, include the potential, the revenue potential, the management team credentials, what's been done so far that gives you a lot of credibility, and any action or your request, what you want them to do. And stick to the key elements, the main message. Know the main message and only include items that strengthen that message, and that can be very difficult to do because there's always great stories, there's always great other things to say, and so you don't want it to be completely dry, so it does need to be human, but make sure it's relevant. and easy to understand. It's the first time your audience has heard this, and they're trying to take it in. So, help them with that. And there's some tools in readability that you can use. There's a readability test tool that can help you with, just how readable it is. So you can write it out, and by writing it out, you can check with some of those readability tools. You can also take a look at the words, make sure that they're known. Stay away from acronyms. They lose so many people.
There's a lot of them out there.
Oh my God, there are so many, and we get so used to them and forget we're saying them. But if people don't use them every day, different companies use different acronyms.
Oh, I'll be talking to prospects or clients, and I'll be throwing around all kinds of acronyms, and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And it's like sometimes I just have to slow down and be like, that's right, I live and breathe this every day. This isn't your thing. I got to talk,
exactly.
and, it's a whole different language.
Yeah, you got to meet them where they are, pretty much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can usually tell them.
So entrenched in it day in and day out that the other person is not. The last thing you want to do is gloss them over and be really above their heads.
Yeah.
That's right. The whole point of communicating.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that happens so much. And then there's also the ambiguity in ambiguous terms. And there's actual tables of ambiguous terms to stay away from, and I've copied one on here for anybody who's interested in
That's
taking
very
a
helpful.
down. Yeah, I hope so. And then finally, and I think most importantly, not only do you want to not lose your audience, you want them to understand, but you also want them to feel it. You want what you're saying to resonate with your audience. And this is where, you want to appeal to the pain or their needs or, what's in it for them, and use their words. If you're saying it and they come back with different words and you hear that a few times, geez, those are probably the words to use, You want it to be their message and something they really relate to. So. And then, you may think you're done. You've written it all out. It's not ambiguous. It's clear. Well, try it out. See how people respond. Does it capture their interest, or are they half asleep, or are they lost? Or what questions do you get? If you get good questions, then they're probably interested. And again, listen to what they say or listen to what they ask. I mean, that can all help you. It's kind of a living, breathing thing. There's the ideal of getting to the point where it's final, but you get better at it. But there's nothing like trying it out on people and getting their response and understanding how it really works. So now you have a compelling message. Now, where are you gonna use this compelling message to promote your product or your service? So it's really very simple. You just promote wherever your prospects are, wherever they hang out. So how do you do that? Well, that gets a little more complicated. There's a lot of places. I mean, you want to know where they look when they're buying. You want to know how they buy, who they talk to, what they read, the websites they go to, the associations they belong to, conferences, social media they use, all these things, because this is where they are. Now, some of this you might already know from being in the market, and you can find out more by asking, either in conversations or through part of your formal market research. And you want specifics. You don't just want to say, well, yeah, I go to a couple of conferences and I belong to a couple of associations. You need to know which ones in order to actually go to them or promote at them or be there. So I've put together a quick format for you to be able to use. And It lists the websites, the social media associations, conferences, Google searches, if you want to promote over Google, and there's a variety of other things, and then just list them down. And then, prioritize them based on who's saying it, if it's the right target market, how many times you hear it, which ones are the places to be at. And people will tell you. You'll find out. And, the important thing, too, with promotion is not to just promote, but to monitor the results. Did you get additional leads? Did you get additional meetings? Did you get additional sales? What did come out of it? And
track their efforts.
Yeah, if you don't get sales, people can say, well, it's good branding, it helps visibility and so on, but, it's important to get sales too.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, and speaking of sales, that moves us on to the sales process. And what you want is one that moves prospects to the final purchase. And people often look at sales as a magic function. We've all heard of salespeople who can sell things to people who don't actually need them. And well, I'm sure that happens, but really, I kind of like to sell things to people who do need them. And there is the art of gaining sales and gaining prospect trust through credibility. But a lot of that comes from knowing what you're selling, having a passion for what you're selling about. So there's the art piece of it. There's also the science piece of it where it's a process. And prospects are transformed into customers as they move down this sales funnel to the close. And it can be tracked through these different steps. Your steps might look a little different depending on what your sales process is. And certain products, if you're selling airplanes, it's a longer selling cycle than if you're selling widgets or staplers. So so it's different for the different products, but it's still a process with defined steps, and it's possible to track the numbers through each of these steps and to see where things are leaking, so out of the funnel. So in the beginning, the idea is to have a lot of leads, and then a number will drop as those leads are qualified. Maybe, they're not in your target market, or they're not specifically, the timing isn't right. Whatever the issue, they need to be qualified. So that's fine to have leakage between generating leads and qualifying them, but you do also want to generate leads, more leads that will be qualified. So that can be an area to look out for. But the thing is, as you move down the funnel, you've spent more time with the prospects, and it gets more expensive. So you want to be more efficient with those steps that are later on in the process. It costs more to lose people as it moves down the funnel.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's a matter of taking a look at the different steps and where the prospects are being lost and not moving through the end, and understanding, what's the issue? Is it that it was the wrong prospect? Is it that they didn't fully understand the benefit of what it is that your product or service has? What are the reasons, and what can change to make that process more efficient and have leads go straight through to close, and lose less of them through leaking out of that funnel?
Sure, and this is a great slide, and I think a lot of it has to do, Tove, in my experience, is really not having that mutual mystification, right? Really understanding clearly what the agenda is. If you're going to be taking meetings, if you're going to be pushing it in, as you mentioned, closer and closer to close, really getting that understanding of specifically this is what we're going to be discussing this day, and making sure that that's clearly defined. So not just showing up, really having a clearly defined agenda and a clearly defined goal for that particular meeting. And I think that's very important.
That's an excellent point, because often you can just say, oh, be excited about having a meeting, but But if there's not an understanding for the goal of that meeting, then it can also be a waste of time as well. So, yeah, and understanding the agenda for that meeting and understanding what the prospect wants to get out of it and what their motivations are and so on, that's all very important. Yeah, and there's some very good sales tools and sales training that really goes into some of those things as well that can help a lot. And that can be part of it. I mean, it can be the selling, it can be the listening, it can be the product, it can be the clarification or talking about the benefits, or it can just be the qualification. Maybe there's another element that needs to be qualified so that there aren't as many prospects that go through and that are spent time on that don't end up buying. So, yeah, but just to take time on that and look at that, that ethereal sales process that, just occurs. Well, it isn't an ethereal sales process that just occurs. It is something that can be analyzed and looked at.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what I had here today, and those are the 5 steps to increasing your sales significantly. Focusing on those steps will really help your company to increase your sales. And if you want to get into any of those points in any more depth in terms of what your customer needs or whatever, feel free to give me a call or get in touch. I'd love to talk to you further about it.
So very good, Tove. We really appreciate you coming on. It looks like for more information, it's tove@partnerscreatingwealth.com or www.partnerscreatingwealth.com. Any questions or any sort of resources that you would like shared, Tove would be happy to do that. Very, very much appreciate your time this morning. Tove, enjoy the rest of your Friday and certainly enjoy spring. And we hope to be in touch down the road.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Ron. Thanks, Ryan. It was so good catching up with all of you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this.
I look forward to staying in touch.
I appreciate it very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care now.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.